Blog Talk Radio.
This is the News in 10 on the 5th day of November 2013. Bostonred here with Bostonred on the World, our international news program. What we are attempting to do here is very similar, I should say, is the proper word, to what is actually going on in the U.S. with Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is attempting to present the news in a little different format than is normally presented in the U.S. and presented in so much of the world. Evidently what has happened is that people have started to believe that they have a cookie cutter, this is the media that is, a cookie cutter approach to the news. The BBC, for example, they have what's normally called news readers, but the news readers are becoming more now a part of the news, even across Europe and some of the rest of the world. The formats are about the same, would depend on where you are. Our story we'll lead off with today is something called Russian National Unity Day. It's marked by what's called anti-immigrant rallies across the nation. And now this is the same basic kinds of movements that happened in Greece with the Don movement there. That particular movement was a fascist movement. They had bully boys and bully girls by default going around terrorizing immigrant populations and others that would not go along with their program. However, they ran into some problems with the authorities in Greece, and their leadership was jailed and some of the leading members of their tendency. So Golden Dawn is not golden anymore. But these types of rallies here, and basically the reason this has come about is there's always been an underlying current in parts of the old Soviet Union that is nationalistic. And what has happened under V.I. Putin, he turned the normal October Revolution celebration, which would have been on the 4th of October, into this National Unity Day. Well, the problem is when you attempt to turn an international day of celebration, and the old Soviet Union was an international struggle. The revolution, by definition, led by V.I. Lenin, was internationalist in form. But what has happened here, and there's a number of reasons for this, that it has been turned into a nationalist day. Nationalist movements have been around before. One of the primary examples was the one led by the German Führer, Adolf Hitler. And he called his the National Socialist Party. Well, basically the same thing you had with the Golden Dawn Party in Greece. In this country, they have something called the National Socialist Movement, not a party. We've seen them out in the plains state of North Dakota. A fellow named Cobb there is trying to resettle a very small town of about 25 people or less into something he calls Cobbville, would be a white nationalist fortress. But why are these things coming about? And this is happening in several European countries, not only in Russia, but they literally allowed there to bring about a movement that the Soviet Union was very important in crushing. That was Nazism. They literally marched from Moscow all the way into Berlin, and the Field Marshal Zhukov read Lenin literally by the light of cannon fire. So thus they lost millions of people in what is called there the Great Patriotic War. So there's obviously some problems going on here and contradictions within the population. One is that the development of the Soviet Union into the Russian Federation was a step backward, and the new capitalist class that took over there has brought about very uneven development. So the worst possible actors in the nation have come out. And one of the big rallies, 8,000 people assembled in a working class neighborhood on the outskirts of Moscow. And they waved black, yellow, and white flags, the old monarchists. Now, understand, this is Romanov's dynasty going back to the monarchists. You can kind of understand where these people are coming from if they are referring back to the monarchists. They are going backward. Now, some were detained, about 30 of them, for wearing masks or forbidden Nazi symbols. Now, at least there they do forbid those particular symbols. Now, this fellow Cobb was actually in Estonia. They see this agent, the old Russian Republic, and the Balkans as a proving ground or a right place for recruits because of this uneven development that's going on there, and that's the same as happening in the east of Germany. You had the old former GDR. And this happens in many countries, and part of the reason is in the German Republic that you have this is the German population, 40% of it, is getting very old. So they must literally bring in labor from outside. So you have a lot of Turks and various other people from throughout the European Union, and Turkey is part of the European Union, and gypsies and other people are now coming in to take jobs that would not be taken. So these are the kinds of things that are happening. And reading here, we should stop immigration. This is from the Al Jazeera story. Immigrants coming into Moscow. Give them land so they live like monkeys, like Americans did with the Indians. Now, this is a term they usually reserve for Africans, and now they live like monkeys. They're saying here. And this is from Alex Sokin, wearing a camouflage fatigues at the head of a patchwork state with multiple regions and ethnic ethnicities. Putin can ill afford any escalation of racial tensions. No doubt about that, because they're trying to build a modern nation. So to build a modern nation, by definition, you can ill afford to have that kind of behavior going on. And we've said in previous broadcasts that V.I. Putin needs to crack down hard like the Greek authorities did in Golden Dawn. Would this stop these movements? No. But what would happen would be it would cool them off, and cooler heads would be there. And the leadership of these movements, because they have literally killed people, should be in prison. They are nothing more than criminal gangs. And the problem in the U.S., and try to tie all this together, out of the Tea Party movement has come back an old situation that called Jim Crow when the U.S. was an apartheid country, has come back again. And so you have these southern states and these so-called Tea Party Congress types that represent them falling back to the old defiant stance. Thus, we had a government shutdown that cost billions of dollars, and almost a situation where literally the national debt was not paid, would have caused damage to the national economy. Not only the national economy, the American economy, like the Russian economy, is internationalized. And when you have an internationalized economy, we've debated these characters before, you cannot have a nationalistic economy. Nationalism is Hitler brought about. What he was trying to do there, yes, he was going to have a German national economy, but he was busy seizing land all over Europe and even into Africa and his partners into Asia, because they literally needed space to deal with the kind of operation they were dealing with. So although it was nationalistic, but at the same time he was globalizing his movement in terms of his resources and the numbers of people that he was literally occupying, including Poland and various other countries. But the days of occupying countries is over. So any dummy would understand that nationalism just will not work. But you have these people that are committed to these things, and they are just like the hardcore of the Nazi Party in Germany. They did not give up their principles, and many of them fled with their principles, and they were, of course, allowed to come to the U.S. willy-nilly. And these are the kinds of people, the ideology does not die. It is more than 60 years later, and these people are still in the business. They're still reading about Hitler, but they've fully not appreciated the dynamics of what they're doing. And in Moscow, they will have, in Russia, will have the Russian Federation, the Winter Olympics at Sochi. Now that will be in February, and they have a very big problem there. Muslim population in the nearby Caucasus. There's a large part of the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union and Russian Federation. A lot of Asiatic people there. The Russian people themselves are a group, but not the dominant group within in that area. So those are some of the things. This will be News in 10 broadcast. Will be a little late coming up. $1 billion art collection was recovered after Nazi theft. Had some Picasso paintings there, and this is a video, so I won't get to it. But anyway, nonetheless, they did recover those. And in Bangladesh, they proposed a 77% wage increase for garment workers. Garment workers manufacturers object, but the government itself is going to need to do some things. Thus, they are moving in that direction, and is a welcome thing. The Bangladeshi official wage board proposed a 77% rise, and this is the minimum for garment workers. There was a strike that went on for 6 days in September, and they had various protests across on the summer. Production at more than 20% of the nation's 3,200 factories was affected. So raising the monthly pay, the proposal is to raise it to $68 there. The factory bosses have not yet agreed to raise above $54. Now you can see where this is going. So the manufacturers are saying it is too high. That is what an American worker would make on the average in one day. So you can see the disparity there and where we get our clothes from. Those countries, must be units of that. So now there's also something called the Million Mass March. They call an end to political corruption. Well, that is a little different kind of situation. And there, the anonymous organization is having it, but corruption is all over the place. That's the hashtag, excuse me. That'll be on Twitter. We'll have more on that in our next broadcast. Is planning a global day of protests on the 5th. That is today, so actually we'll be doing that today. And you can go to Facebook or to Twitter and find out all about it and put that hashtag there. Corruption is a very big problem, but it has always went hand in hand with capitalism. This is Bostonred on the 5th of November, 2013, with the News in 10. And hopefully we brought some things together, and we'll have more programs. We were airing at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here in the U.S. We're changing that, and now it's about 2:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nonetheless, so long from New York, and have a good day, and we will return to you at a more regular basis. This is the News in 10 on the 5th day of November 2013. Bostonred here with Bostonred on the World, our international news program. What we are attempting to do here is very